Today we're taking a fascinating journey into the world of 19th century music and gender, thanks to a paper by Gökçe Çiçek called An Integrated Professional in the Shadow of Masculine Hegemony. Clara Schumann. Wow, that's a mouthful, right? Let's break it down together and see what real lessons it could have for you. You know, whether you're into music history, social science, or just curious about how tradition shapes people's lives. Okay, first, what's the core question here? I'd say Tua's paper is really digging into how did the systems of masculine dominance, think societal gender expectations and power structures, shape the life and career of Clara Schumann? And, why does this matter? Well, Clara Schumann is a great example of a woman who became an international celebrity as a pianist and teacher, but she did so in an era when women in Europe faced some pretty, let's say, severe limitations. Understanding this history gives us a lens to think about how gender, power and recognition are still at play, maybe even today in workplaces and creative fields. So the author, just recapping, that's Gökçe Çiçek, uses two big ideas from social theory, one from Pierre Bourdieu and one from Howard Becker. The Bourdieu idea is masculine domination and symbolic violence. Kind of heavy, right? Those terms basically point to the subtle but pervasive ways that society makes masculine norms seem natural and expects women to fit quietly into certain roles. Meanwhile, Becker's concept, integrated professional, comes from his theory about art worlds and refers to artists who totally fit into their field's established standards, becoming respected insiders. So, Clara Schumann, just putting her in history here, grew up as a prodigy pianist in early 19th century Germany. She gave her first concerts at age 10, travelled all over Europe, and became the first woman to go on a European piano tour. Wild, huh? Against the odds. But her journey wasn't just about her own talent. Before marriage, her father, Friedrich Wieck, meticulously controlled her training and career, really micromanaging her every move. After marriage, her husband, composer Robert Schumann, expected, well, pretty traditional things. There are journal entries from Clara describing how after marriage she couldn't find time for her own creative work because household duties and her husband's need for quiet would take priority. What's really interesting in the paper is how Tua pulls examples from Clara's diaries and life. Clara literally writing about how she felt she wasn't supposed to aspire to being a composer because women never did that. Imagine that. She achieved global fame, yet doubted her right to compose. The influence of her father and husband wasn't always like direct yelling or restriction. Instead, it was the more invisible power of symbolic violence, to use Bourdieu's term, shaping her beliefs about what a woman could be. But at the same time, Becker's theory gives us a frame to see how Clara Schumann rose to the level of what he calls an integrated professional. She gained huge respect across all the circles that matter. Famous composers like Liszt and Mendelssohn, royalty and the public. She not only performed and taught, but also wrote her own music, though less after marriage. Fun fact, she was even the first woman to get a royal music title that had previously only gone to Paganini. Kind of a big deal. Over her life, she played more than 1,000 concerts and helped shape modern piano technique. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, the story here isn't just about music or the past. It's about how invisible rules and expectations still operate today. Ever felt like you weren't supposed to do something, or an unspoken rule held you back? Could be work, art, family, or really anywhere. Clara Schumann's life shows both the weight and the possibility to challenge what society expects. And that's a takeaway, right? That even if we fit in or even if we feel those invisible pressures, there's space, maybe not always, but sometimes, to create change. Clara didn't totally break the mold, but she did change it. By the way, this isn't me endorsing or criticizing Tua's arguments. I'm just presenting what the research says, tossing the ideas into the middle so you can consider them. Sometimes I think about whether I would have kept practicing piano as a kid if my parents were as intense as Clara's dad. Haha, I probably would have rebelled. Anyway, if you remember one thing, let it be this. Academic research doesn't give us absolute truths. but perspectives for thinking more deeply. Whether you care about music, gender, or just the twists of people's lives, papers like this let us examine how society's expectations can both box